G'day, it's Robbie again. Well, if you've got one of these, or one of these, electric die grinder, air die grinder, you can use them with cutting discs like I've got fitted here, which is what I use most of the time. But then you can also use them with something else. You can use them with these. These are Carbide Burrs. Come in a range of sizes and shapes. You come with a 3mm shaft, or you can come with a bigger shaft like this one. I think that might be 6mm from memory. And yeah, they're pretty aggressive. They're a bit tricky to use. You've got to be careful because they can catch on you. And if you're doing, say, a round hole, they can catch and run around the hole and then snap themselves off. You won't snap off one of these big ones, but the little ones do snap pretty easy. And that's generally what happens. They get to a point where one day, yep, shit happens and they'll snap. Generally they're a throwaway because they'll break off right up by the head. Anyway, I was going through my bits and pieces and I found one that had snapped off back a bit. Now these are quite expensive, what they are, you know, they're not cheap, and they're high quality. So normally that would get bent, and I looked at it and I thought, well really, maybe I can repair it, maybe I can put a bigger shaft on. You see, the die grinders, the electric die grinder I've used has got a chuck on it, so I could put on a bigger non-standard diameter shaft on it and get some more life out of it. So that's what I've decided to try. I've never done this before. Could be a total waste of time, but we'll give it a go and see what happens. Okay, the first thing we need is something to make the shaft out of. So I'll look in my beaten up old toolbox here, which is all the stuff I use for model engine making. So there's air fittings and all sorts of stuff in here, and there's a whole lot of shafts, and a lot of these are printer rails, right? You know, sliding head rails out of printers. So that looks pretty good, doesn't it? Oh, hang on, this one looks better. Yeah, that's really hard, chrome-plated or stainless steel. I know this stuff's super hard. You can drill it with cobalt drills if you go slowly, but it's pretty damn hard. Okay, we'll use that. So this is 6mm, so that will fit in the chuck on the electric die grinder, no problem. And it's big enough diameter that I can drill out the centre to the diameter of the bit of shaft, and then I can lock it in there. Now, you know, there's not much shaft, so you're going to have something strong, so I'm going to use bronze braze. So once again, this is where if you've got MAP gas or you know, oxyacetylene or a bullfinch torch, something hot, you can do this. You could try using Loctite, but I don't think it's strong enough for this sort of vibration and loading. I just don't think it would hold. So I'm not going to even try that. I'm going to braze it in, and yeah, provided I do it right, it should work okay. All right, let's do it. All right, we have to go for maximum accuracy here. So we'll take off the scroll chuck and we'll fit the ER32 Collet Chuck. Now once again, if you've got a lathe and you want to use collets, you'll be swapping out the chuck quite regularly. This is going to be really often because you just have to do it. And you know, in a previous video I said, don't get a lathe with a chuck that's bigger than 6 inch because you're just not going to be able to handle it. It's going to be a disincentive to even want to use collets. So this is a 5-inch chuck. We'll take it off. I've had this chuck on and off hundreds of times, literally. Always put it that way so it can't roll off on the floor onto your foot. It's going to roll, it'll roll that way. Also pays to put the jaws out slightly so it won't roll, but I haven't done that in this case. So in goes the Collet Chuck, in goes the drawbar, and now all we have to do is tension up the bolt at this end that pulls into the back of that, of the taper. Now when you do this, you just do it lightly. You don't have to give it a lot of pressure. You know, it's like Morse tapers that you put in your tailstock. You don't, you know, have a lot of pressure on it. So you just do this up, just gently. That's all there's to it. You don't have to tighten the bejesus out of it, because then you're going to have to hammer the hell out of it to get it to release. So you don't need it. The same as you don't need a lot of tension in the tailstock. Same principle, same system. That's the one we want. Right, this is stainless steel, hard stuff. So how are we going to cut it? We're going to use the die grinder to cut it. That's what we've got die grinders for. We'll use it to cut it and to dress it. That's where these things just leave every other cutting medium for dead. They also do it with virtually no pressure, so you can have as much overhang as you want. So that's what we'll do. We'll square the end up, then we'll drill it, and then we'll cut it off to the length we want. Right, so now we've got to braze it together. So this is going to go in here. Now, how are we going to hold that to braze it? Well, I've drilled right through, so I'll show you how I'll do it. Now, the name of the game is to reduce heat loss. So I've just got a bit of wire stuck in the vise. We'll slide that on the top, and then we can heat it. There'll be very little thermal loss, and we can just run a bit of braze around here, and it should capillate down into the inside of it. Or I could actually, I'll run a bit of braze in there first, and then I'll just drop this in while it's hot, and it should work okay. We'll do it. So here's the end result. Looks pretty good to me. That won't come apart. This is where bronze brazing is just so good. And yeah, I did it with LPG, special torch, but as I said, MAP gas will do this, no problem. Hardly use any at all. So that now should be good enough to do some grinding. So let's try it. So there's a good indication of what you can do with one of these things. I've fixed up the unfixable, got it back, saved some money. That's probably $5 I've saved there. All you need is make up a bracket, get an arbor, use some thin cutting discs of the right size. You're good to go. Get a MAP gas setup and you can do this sort of repair work, no problem. So yeah, these are worth their weight in gold. They're fantastic things, and that's why, you know, I straight away got another one because yeah, these are unbeatable. All right, hope you got something out of that. That's it from me. Must be beer time. See you next time. Cheers.